Coming to you live from sunny California. No, I'm kidding. Welcome everyone to the Wednesday Night Live show. Mysterious chair. No,
We're interviewing a chair tonight, everybody. So sit
back.
back. No pun intended. Get ready for a killer show.
I was going to say mystery guest, but his name is right there. So.
Yeah. Phil, you've changed.
Oh, yes. Phil is a little bit slimmer than I thought he would be. No, I'm kidding.
Phillip Kirschberg.
Yeah, we are back, everybody. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. In the chat, these guys just hammered me with article after article. I don't even know where to start, but we're back. Everybody is here. Phil will be back here in a second, but we're going to go ahead and say hello to Tim first here. And Tim, how is your lovely week going, dude?
It's been semi-chaotic. We're in the middle of a system migration where I'm working now, but that's I'm in the light is at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. I will soon be departing from that location and on to bigger and better things. So,
nice.
Just you gotta just weather the storm for now. Big project before you walk out the door. It'll be my signature on the place, and then you go and set trends somewhere else. Yeah,
and you're gonna leave on a high note, and you're gonna do it.
Yeah, you quit while I'm ahead. That's the mentality. Quit while you're ahead.
That's right, and leave, and I don't know why it seems to be this new trend that you have to leave like in a storm. It seems like everywhere I've been and I've watched people quit, it's like they got to do it like they got to announce it, and it's just like this. I'm leaving. Fuck everybody in here. Go to hell. Screw you, you sons of bitches. Send my check in. You can keep it. All this. I'm just like looking. I'm like, dude, it's McDonald's, dude. They don't care. You quitting, dude. They don't care.
It's the same phenomena in Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to get on there and leave some 3-paragraph exit interview, and it's like all you had to do was just
leave. Just leave.
I mean, if it was that painful, you can just go. Actually, the reality is I'm not leaving this company that I'm with now because of turmoil or anything like that. It was just really a better opportunity came around and doors open and you got to walk in. So.
Yeah, Tim's covering his social media stuff there, covering his bases.
Yeah, I'm just gonna become a TikTok star. It's not a real job.
Yeah. Feet pictures, Tim. Feet pictures.
Absolutely. There's lots of competition on TikTok for feet pictures. I'm either gonna do feet videos, or I'm gonna learn how to twerk or choreograph dance. Or in the last one, because at this point I'm convinced there's only 2 types of people on TikTok, and maybe the feet people exist. I'll find them later, but I'm convinced that either it's somebody knows how to twerk or dance in some choreographed fashion, and then everybody else owns a pet monkey, and that's it. That's the only 2 people that exist on this planet. When it comes to TikTok, I need to get out from underneath that rock. So
you're missing one group. You're missing one group, Tim.
The feed picture group?
No, you're missing the cooking group.
But they all own pet monkeys, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah,
maybe you could work with a pet monkey while you're barefoot.
You know what? You might be onto something, Allison. Screw the foot pictures and the videos. No, I'm going right to monkey twerking.
Allison, by the end of the show tonight, Allison will leave in a blaze of glory. Fuck you guys! Screw you! I'm out. I'm going to TikTok.
I'm going to sell my forks in jars. That chick made.
I'm sorry, I passed up for a moment there. What were you talking about?
It wasn't important, Phil. It wasn't important.
Yeah, 50 milligram got me there for a second.
Put the 60 down. Put the 60 mil down. Let's say hello to our Aussie.
G'day all. How are we?
G'day.
Ollie, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm well, Phil. How are you?
Outstanding, sir.
Well, we're talking about twerking with monkeys and barbecuing. Okay, so it's going to get really weird here in a minute. Don't worry about it.
Started out really weird.
Well, shit happens though, doesn't it?
Hey, you got to make that. You got to make those Benjamins, man. You got to make those Benjamins.
Well, we've got to. Okay, no comment. No.
We won't.
Pass.
We won't
We're gonna all play a little game later. It's called "I'm Leaving the Show."
Yeah, I'm leaving the
and
show.
and it's that old game, you know, where you kind of go like the first part. Like I'll start and I'll go, "I'm leaving the show and I'm taking my monkey, and that's all I'm taking." And then it goes to Allison, and then she says, "I'm leaving the show and I'm taking my monkey and my twerk." And that's all I'm taking. And then it's got to go around the horn until somebody fucks up. So.
Tim put a lot of thought into that. All right. Let's say hello to Allison. Allison, how's your week going?
How are you? Pretty good. Just updating my OnlyFans page right now. You guys got me like
Clackety clack.
so many ideas.
Clickety clackety.
And now it says expert in twerking, monkeys, and cooking lasagna at the same time.
Right. That's right.
Oh man. That's it. That's all you got for me.
I got nothing.
Yeah, you're having a good. That means you're having a good week. I'm glad. And joining us tonight, and he's going to share his vape journey story with us. Maybe some feet pictures or a monkey picture. Look at
Open
Phil.
forum.
Feels like what did I get into?
There you go. Look at that. Look at that soul. He's got soul.
You got soul, Phil. You got soul.
If you don't have soul at this age, you don't have a whole lot to look forward to.
Yeah. How is your week going there, Phil?
Phillip, please, by all means.
Phillip. Oh,
Phillip
no, I
is
can
on the
remember.
screen.
That's my brother's name. Yeah, that's
He's a
my
real
brother's
schmuck,
name.
too.
Yeah.
Let me see. How is my week going? It's going great until Brian King opened his mouth. Let me see. Opened his mouth, wrote a couple of lines, and FDA issued a statement about how great it is to be, issuing rejection. I don't know. He's an unknown quantity, but I am having a fantastic week.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true at all. I'm having a terrible week, but it's getting better.
Yeah. Just get yourself a TikTok account and get to it, and everything will work out, man.
I have a question about the TikToking. I have heard that now Twitter I've been on forever, and I'm very grateful for the followers I have. But I have heard things like, either Instagram or TikTok, you can basically for every 1,000 followers you might have on Twitter equals like 10,000, 20,000 on TikTok, something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen it go both ways. Yeah. I've seen like accounts that you're like, why does that person have 380,000 followers and they're like doing the dumbest stuff in the world? And then you'll have people that actually have kind of some creative content, and then they've got like 100 followers. So I don't know what the right, hashtag is, or how to draw the views, but it's kind of all over the place. So it's surprising to see what accounts actually get followers.
There's no science to it. There's no science.
Actually, someone, a distant relative of mine, all young, all she had to do was prepare for a wedding or plan for a wedding. And she ended up with almost 200,000 followers.
Yeah.
And now she's has a line of products on Amazon. So I guess
you got to make those Benjamins. You got to make those Benjamins any way you can. It's nothing like shaking somebody's hand. And what do you do for a living? I'm a social media influencer.
Yeah, the Twitter account is really not paying, and I doubt it ever will. But
I don't. It's really. I almost think it would be virtually impossible to be able to make any money off of Twitter. As I think that's more set up. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's companies out there that are willing to, unless you're a blogger and you're blogging for a publication, and maybe that way. But as far as like, how would you even represent a product? How would you even? It'd be hard.
Yeah.
And
they'd have to pay me for my hot takes, and let me just promise you, those are few and far between.
Yeah, I hope not, because I think, I love, I know we're talking about social media, but I love Instagram. And Instagram used to be this really great platform that was designed for pictures, and it was, just everybody sharing what they see throughout their day. And I loved it. I loved going on there. What are my chances I'm ever going to be in Tibet? And I get to see these amazing pictures, and it's gotten to where Instagram has turned into TikTok. It's like my whole news feed is no longer these amazing photos that I love seeing. It's just people twerking and, short reels pranks and all this other nonsense, and there are people I don't even follow, and it's gotten bad. I mean, I hope Instagram realizes that they don't need to be TikTok, and go back to allowing people to share their photos and share their lives in photos.
The funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, that Russian, she's a Russian older lady, I believe. She has some kind of degree in psychology, going around debunking the TikTokers who are talking about. Did you see that?
Yeah, there's a couple of them that are finally doing it.
Grandmother's like, it's something like this. You need to stop lying. I've never laughed so hard in my entire life. And it was just like all these cringy little kids. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so happy today. They decided to talk about serotonin, blah 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 blah. She's like, I thought you were going to start telling the truth today.
We talked about TikTok on here, and the fact that like even Tim and I don't see very much of it. And now that I follow Matt is on there now. So basically he is absolutely the only vaping stuff I see on TikTok. Some people say there's more out there. I really haven't seen any. I really haven't seen any kids vaping in videos or even adults vaping in TikTok videos. But I guess some people say they're out there. And like I said, if I wasn't following Matt, I probably wouldn't see any. So I don't know what the deal is of what people.
Matt Cully or Matt?
Yeah, Matt Cully. Yeah, Matt. That's,
Go in there and change your age to 16, and then they'll probably start coming.
Oh, I'll get hammered fucking young. And you take this device and you take that one. You get like 6 cups. No, I'm just kidding.
Of the vile stuff I've seen on TikTok and Instagram, kids vaping sounds like the best of all possible outcomes.
Yeah. I saw a lot of it for a while there on Instagram, and Instagram kind of hammered that and took it out, and was really paying attention to the hashtags for a while there, and still kind of are. I mean, I've noticed it. I have like 2 accounts. One is my photography account, and then I have the vape one. And I noticed when I use certain hashtags, my images wouldn't come up. So I realized, okay, can't use hashtag vape anymore because that's their trigger hashtag that they're just going to boot you right off the whatever it's called.
I figured it out for you, John. I basically just I started following Matt. I was not prior, but I am now. And then it's not about looking at his followers. Basically, just go to any one of his videos, look at the hashtags he puts in his video in the commentary, and then click on the hashtag, like hashtag vaping. And I mean, I know people can't see this, but I mean, all kinds of vaping stuff comes up.
Wow.
And then you can, and some look like reviews or tutorials and things of that nature. So it's there. You just have to follow the hashtag now, and then I'm sure you'll get a ton of it in your
I'm not going to do that. I get enough vaping everywhere else.
This Instagram or TikTok?
This TikTok. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think, Matt's deal is, I think he went on to TikTok because somebody else was taking clips of his videos and just sharing them on TikTok. He's like, well, wait a minute here.
Yeah. Well, that's a big problem. And people basically just steal people's videos and post them under like sort of ghost fake accounts. And then they end up getting all the views towards that account. And it's not really that. But no, Matt said he actually went to TikTok for vaping stuff because YouTube was on his case really heavy, and he had to delete like, a metric F ton of videos that he was down to like 200 or something because he edited what he could. So while he was in sort of timeout, dealing with his strikes, he's like, he moseyed over to TikTok to do some, light reviews and stuff like that. And then TikTok kind of lightened up on him a little bit. So, I mean, YouTube lightened up on him. So he went now he's sort of like all over the place kind of thing. Yeah.
So, the last I heard from Matt was that they actually did.
They should give him a strike.
Get rid of some of he was down to like one more red flag or one more strike.
Yeah, he's one strike away from being gone. Yeah. Three, you're done.
The videos you're done. They keep them down. They can't download them or save them, so they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
Matt has been doing this. Matt and Nick both have been doing this for so long, and they are so incredibly responsible about the way in which they present adult products. And more importantly, these are the guys, along with Phil, Bizarro and people like that have been doing it for a very long time, and they have earned the right to know exactly why they're being
right,
bothered about this.
right.
And when I found out about Matt, since it was going on for a good 2 months, but every time he opened up his account, his stat, he was terrified that he was going to have another flag from YouTube, and it enraged me so much. I was just I'm just really glad that it's been resolved, at least for now.
Yeah.
Because to hassle Matt Cully makes me think that they're simply not paying any attention at all.
Yeah. Well, I think too. I think this was a way, because I'm going by what I had to do for this channel, and now what I've seen Matt have to do, and now Phil having to do. I think this was a way for YouTube to get us to remove a lot of content, and that's exactly what they got. I removed over 350 fucking videos off the Zamplebox channel just to avoid having to go through every single one of them and make sure there was no paid link, make sure there was no link sending you to another third-party site, and they got it. It was smart move on their part, because you're talking about Matt erasing 200, 300 videos. I erased over 300 videos. Phil erased almost all his content off his channel. I mean, they got what they wanted out of it. And now, now they got us all on the minimum, the maximum, which is 2, where you're really scared. 2, you're one strike away from being done and not being able to upload your content. So if you haven't uploaded your content yet off of YouTube onto a hard drive here at your home, you're going to lose all that. You're going to lose all that. So,
but what is their motivation to give Matt a strike for a URL or a barcode on Aspire Atlantis that was released how many years?
Yeah, I think the bigger picture was getting rid of the content. That's what I'm saying. I think their goal was to get rid of all that old content off our channels, because if you look, those videos are still doing views. For some odd reason, people still need to know how the Atlantis works, or people are still going back to the I'm trying to remember old names here, but Geek Vape,
the etymology of a movement, basically.
Yeah, they're still getting views on those links, and I think it was just a quick way of them getting rid of a majority of the content that's out there that's still getting views, and then giving us 2 strikes and basically, scaring us to shit. I mean, you're right. We've had Matt on the show, and Matt talked about that instance, what happened with them going after him because he was doing the box unboxing, and of course the company's website was on the box, of course, right? It's on every box, and that's what they went after.
There being any sort of YouTube policy prohibiting that, of course.
Well, I think it was algorithms that were flagging it, because the video would pick up on a URL on the box, and then they would just flag that video, and he'd have to either edit it or take it down. And the reality is that most people probably didn't even pay attention to the fact that URL was there. And then secondarily to that, he's already age restricted anyway. Yeah. He's not showing that video to kids. So theoretically, he's following all the rules, and then YouTube decided to tweak the algorithm. And he said that it's typically seasonal. He noticed a trend with a lot of the flags and things he was getting, where it would always happen around the same time every year, and it would kind of ramp up, and he would get these strikes or flags or whatever he was getting, and then he would argue and fight the majority of them. And then he said, after a bunch of fighting and arguing, you would see the algorithm kind of lighten up a little bit, and then things would start getting through again. And not just because of him alone. It just, like, obviously YouTube was retweaking things and relaxing it, and then it would be fine for a good long while, and then boom, it would come right back. They'd retweak it. So he said it's mostly robots and algorithms that were getting him. It's not some 18-year-old kid employed by YouTube to sit there and watch all of his videos.
Yeah. The algorithms they do respond to reports and flags from individuals, and
as well.
that was very much. Let's just say,
is Michael Bloomberg just sitting at home at night flagging every video?
Well, yeah, that's well. Think
he's stabbing, his index finger into your lasagna. The thing about and Jim made a good point. What they were doing was essentially destroying a lot of the history of vaping that occurred on YouTube. But more importantly, and Matt made a good point, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but in order for there to be this amount of activity, checking out his extraordinarily old archives of just videos that were 8, 9. I mean, his very first video.
It
would have to be. Let's just say it sounded like there was something that instigated the check, and it wouldn't be the first time that there was an organized group of people that decided to complain about his content.
Oh, they did that to us. That's what happened here on this channel. We had someone just start tagging videos one after the other, and all of a sudden I couldn't keep up with it. You get one strike, or you get one a notification from YouTube that someone has reported your video. Okay, you can deal with one, but when all of a sudden you have boom, 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 boom. So a group, I'm not going to call out who I think it was, but went ahead and just started reporting every single video on this channel.
And it doesn't matter who they are. They don't have to be content creators.
They don't. They just
be individuals with no
because it's vaping. And so for me, I felt like, okay, I'm not going to go through, and this is what these guys are going through, Matt and Phil and everybody else. They're not going to go through all their old archives and remove third-party links. They're not going to do that. I mean, that's a lot. You're talking a lot of work, especially for Matt and Nick and Phil. You're talking about 10 years worth of videos that's sitting there, thousands, 1,000 videos that you're going to have to go all the way back, take out any link to a website that you were doing the video for, because let's be honest, most of those videos were sponsored. So so if e-Ciggity sponsored Phil to do this video for that device, that link was there. Go get this, get 20% off, blah blah blah. Any discount code that was there, any third-party link that was on there had to be removed. And what happened, I think, nobody fault. Somebody should have said something, and they should have at least grandfathered those old videos in, and said, hey, you know what? We understand there's 1,000 videos there. You're not going to be able to go through every single one of them, but from this date on, no links, no discount codes.
Last dumb question. Is there a way to migrate this content somewhere?
Yeah,
that's what some are trying.
It's happening. It's happening now, but that brings up a very good point, because there was a picture that appeared on Twitter the other day where they completely wiped out a whole section of the vaping history. Like, the timeline was completely corrupted. I went, hang on a second. You're stating that this happened, this happened, this happened. Where's Han Lick? He's not even in the equation. And I'm going, who wrote? I
think that was an intentional omission. Who tweeted that? It was some anti.
Yeah, but that was when I went through that timeline, Philip. I'm sitting there going, hang on, but there's this missing, this missing. I went, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a deliberate way to link the original vaping. Basically, it was a way to bring hominid, walked out of the ocean, caveman vaping, and link it to big tobacco with 4 tiny steps in between.
Yeah.
It was outrageous, but it was also meant to incite rage. And there was a couple. I mean, Phil tried moving over to another platform. There was that one, I can't remember what it was, but unfortunately we're a creature of habit. So you know what? YouTube has worked for us, and YouTube is where we go to get our information. They weren't getting the same numbers. They weren't getting that group moving over to that other platform, because people are like, dude, do I really need to download another app on my phone? Do I really need to go here now to watch these videos? I get what I need on YouTube. I'm going to stay on YouTube. And they just didn't get that transfer of numbers,
I mean, look at Mike Vapes. I mean, Mike was 700 and something thousand. What is Mike up to? And he tried to go over.
He's got
He's the
another
most
channel,
popular.
but
Yeah.
well, oh no, Rip actually is with 1.2.
Yeah, Rick's the highest.
1.2 million.
Yeah.
But
Rip Trippers.
Oh, good Lord, still.
Yeah.
I loved his stuff back in the day. I basically,
I learned how to make coils because of Rip. So I'm gonna
Rip. Mike does a great job. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
It was, I think, Nick more recently, just because getting to know Matt and Nick, just in the amount of advocacy Nick does, as well as take up a few product interviews, is just in the same with Matt. It's just I admire the hell out of him. But most of all, I just cannot tell you how much it pains me to see YouTube give the very best of the people that literally abide by every silly rule that they create a hard time, because let's just say that they are the best of what that platform can hope for, with hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah. Now, all I know is I have grandkids at the house, and I see what they watch on YouTube, and I question the kid content that they have for kids on YouTube. And it's adults. It's fucking adults doing some pretty weird stuff on there and kind of warping the minds of our future generation of kids. Because
thank you for calling it weird. That was
I was going to use another word, but I am going to move you over here, Phillip, and you're going to tell us your story. And let me do this right here. You get full screen, baby. You get full screen.
We take a quick commercial break. I'm hearing.
I got it.
We'll just take 5 minutes, and then we can talk about everything to do with my soul.
You're gonna, no problem.
Let's talk about Phillip while he's gone, guys. Come
let's
on.
talk about him. You know, I really didn't like the soles of his feet. I don't think he's going to make it.
Yeah, I was a little offended by the red soles. I don't know. There was just something about that. That color just, I don't know. Just sent me into a rage, and I've been silent about it the whole entire time. But I feel now's a good time to talk about it because he's not here. So, but when he comes back, shh, everybody.
But he'll never know.
You didn't hear about the soles.
I'm going to suggest he soak his feet in some warm water and some salt.
Some Epsom salts.
Some Epsom salt.
It's good mother's remedy, for pains and aches, things of that nature.
Let's move Allie here. You could hit us for one of your story, one of your articles if you want it. Before,
start with the shortest one.
While Phil does his Phillip.
Get it right, John.
That's my brother's name. I got to get it right. When he comes back, I'm going to call him Filippo and see what he says.
We have a couple of good articles this week to touch on. This one, the first one that I have, is the U.S. public health messaging is guiding consumers towards smoking. And basically, it's covering the new American Cancer Society study. Suggests that the public health community should be more careful about the messaging it delivers on the differences between combustible cigarettes and vaping products. Basically, the research found that the public perception among American adults of e-cigarettes being more harmful than cigarettes has more than doubled during 2019 and 2020. And the perceptions that they are less harmful declined between 2018 and 2020. 28.3% believe that vaping is more harmful than smoking.
That's so
in
sad.
2020, up from 12.8% in 2019 and 6.8% in 2018. Meanwhile, those who correctly believe vapes are less harmful dropped from 17.6% in 2018 to 11.4% in 2020. And also concerningly, there was an increase in cigarette smoking and in those who perceived that e-cigarettes were more harmful. So basically, public health activists should not be surprised by this. It goes on to say, vaping is a direct substitute for smoking, and vaping products compete in the nicotine market with combustible cigarettes and other tobacco products. And basically, they're saying, they only believe that the way to quit is cold turkey, basically that quit or die outlook.
When I read that, I was on fire because I cannot stand people saying that to anyone anymore. Oh, you could do it, just cold turkey.
That's a person who never smoked. That's a person who never smoked.
Yep.
Or if it is, it's the handful of people that actually were able to fight through. And then they always caveat the comment with, "It was hard. It took me a long time to finally get there, but I just had to, power my way through." And it's like, you know what? Vaping is here to sort of let you down softly. If your end goal is to quit altogether, hey, more power to you. You don't have to persist like we chose to do. I mean, that's our choice. But the point is that vaping could let you down a bit more with a parachute versus that. But when you talk about things like this, especially the fact that the vaping propaganda is out there, and sort of the conflation of the harms of e-cigarettes and things like that. Obviously you get mad because you're like, it's such bullshit that that people can just get out on a platform and say all this stuff that no one's really going to spend the time to truly validate test results or studies and things that are done. But I think the thing that pisses me off the most is that we live in a culture or a world where people are very inclined to just sort of believe a headline, or believe if it comes from somewhat what feels like reputable source. I mean, even if you want to parse that out, it's like, why have we not graduated to a little bit more of a culture of critical thinkers that go, okay, well, I see this article and I see what it's saying, but let me go try to see the other side of that argument and see what they're saying. And it's just blows my mind how many people will just go for the sensational scare tactic headline gotcha, instead of going, you know what, maybe that's true, but maybe I should look over here a little bit. And that's the part that pisses me off.
Right. I saw a tweet today, and I cannot remember who posted it. But it was 97% of people that vape don't plan to quit. Well, so what? I didn't plan to quit smoking either. So hallelujah that I'm not going to quit vaping, because now I don't smoke. So who cares? I'm grown up.
Exactly.
I think Tim brings up a good point, but it seems like it's gotten better. It's a little bit better. I can type vaping in Google now, and I'm not going to get hammered with all the clickbait articles that Tim was talking about. There are some good articles that are in there. It used to be 2 pages. I used to have to go 2 pages deep to find one positive article on vaping. It's gotten, Go ahead, Philip.
I Googled vaping for the first time in a long time earlier today after Mark Gunther was on the CASA Twitter space today. His Truth Initiative, Half Truth, the history of the Truth Initiative, was on the first page of results. Yeah, I almost stood up and cheered.
Yeah, it's gotten better. It's gotten way better. But there was a time. I swear to God, I just go to number 2, page 2, because I knew that's how far deep I would. And then the sad part.
You're out of the valley.
And the other sad part was sometimes you did go 2 pages deep, and it wasn't an article, a positive article. It was a sales ad. And you know what I'm talking? It was a website. It was either,
after we scared the shit out of you, here's where you buy this stuff.
And I was like, okay, where's our clickbait? God damn it. Where's our clickbait?
Right.
Well, I think that the anti-vapors, or at least the ones that, campaign against it and somehow are able to get the better search results than the positive stuff. Yeah. They know that they have easy target audience, right? I mean, obviously you're going to have people that are staunch this or staunch that. I mean, that's evident in the political debate, if you want to get involved in all that. But they know that they have a very soft target out there of a bunch of people who don't have a dog in the fight. Yep. And they're the ones that are going to be more inclined, because they don't have the time, nor do they care to take the time to try to really find out the truth. It's whatever can get out there first. Yeah. And they'll believe that, and then they'll see that, and then they'll think that that's sort of the gospel of what's really going on, because they'll tag FDA or CDC or some, entity that has some element of clout, American Heart Association or, whatever. And then they're like, well, they said that, so it must be true,
Diminishing on a daily basis.
Yeah. And that's a hard battle to fight, because the vaping industry, we're kind of limited to what we can put out there. Obviously, we can't say things about health with regard to it, but also, right. And I'm not going there. I'm also saying at the same time, to advertise to advertise campaigns take money, right? I mean, you can't just, it doesn't start with a few of us in our own little bubble, just kind of like pushing this cool little graphic around. I mean, if you want to spread out, you got to be able to put some money behind that to try to beat that other punch before it gets to the general public. So it's a hard fight.
It is.
That's something I've been trying to do for a few years now on Twitter, and it's working a little bit. Is make acquaintances with people in not necessarily in harm reduction, but people who are either researchers, scientists, or people in public health who really aren't their interests aren't anywhere near tobacco or tobacco harm reduction, and by virtue of just the follower relationship, maybe they come by a few tweets about vaping or any safer nicotine alternative, and take an interest in the subject. And these are people that are smart enough to see, for example, there are a couple, you got Ryan Maria, or even the health, what's his name, from Australia, who wrote a fair, balanced, article critique of vaping policy in Australia by Australian standards. He's a very well-respected epidemiologist, and that's someone who actually came out on the side of, hey, if you can not smoke or vape, don't smoke or vape, but it's much better if you're vaping than smoking, and to at least get that acknowledgement from someone like him felt pretty damn good.
Well,
how much is a billboard? I'm kind of curious.
I have no idea. I'm gonna Google it right now. So while you guys are talking,
well, I just saw a TikToker the other day, a practical joke on his dad.
Oh yeah, two Tony.
He's
got hilarious.
His dad to do a Seinfeld little where he's sitting on a couch in his underwear, and then he took that picture and paid for a billboard that's on a major highway, and everyone has to drive by. So if he can buy one, I think we can buy one. No, I've seen
ones that say like "Happy Graduation" like to their kids.
Yeah, that's those moms and dads are CEOs.
Oh my God, you would absolutely die.
That's not. I'll buy a space on the yearbook in the back of the yearbook that says, my daughter. It's $250.
But no.
I wanted to go back to the articles on YouTube, and one of the things that I noticed, and I hate giving them credit, but they're well written, and what Tim was talking about, they're smart enough to link positive other articles, whether it's sending you to the CDC, whether it's sending you to the FDA. They keep whoever has clicked on that link within that circle, and it's kind of hard because you get to that point, you thought you were going to read a 5-minute thing, and all of a sudden you're stuck in this anti-vaping loop that you're all of a sudden you're at the FDA page, you're over at CDC, somehow you end up on PAVE, and then you're just doing this vicious circle of just hate for vaping. We need better writers. No, I'm kidding. Allison, I'm gonna let you finish your article there, hon.
I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, it just goes on to say the government messaging is skewed towards emphasizing the dangers of e-cigarettes, with the CDC coining the term e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury, EVALI, to categorize the lung injury outbreak in 2019. And that obviously we know now did not contain nicotine. CDC has been asked by policy experts to clarify, but the agency has declined and continues to do nothing to address the public misinformation. And so basically it's just saying, American Cancer Society is not opposed to harm reduction as a concept, but they think that it should be clear.
Yeah.
The message should be clear, and that, it's doing harm. And I think it's kind of a big deal that they would acknowledge that fact.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've read that
last
article
that you have written, or an article you're working on.
It's linked.
No, an article that I'm reading.
I can give you the link to it, Paul. Filippo. I'm going to call you Filippo.
Filippo works. Kirsch's, if you're nasty, is cool. Allison, by the way, while we have a moment, I really, really enjoyed listening to what little I was able to get of your speech.
Yeah.
No, you're very, very compelling speaker.
Thank you.
Stop doing that, goddammit.
She killed it. She killed it.
Thanks.
No, that was very impressive, and I think that maybe I'm trying to tone myself. I'm trying to show a little humility and maybe, like I said before, speak to some people who are on the cusp of understanding a little bit more about vaping and other forms of nicotine alternatives, cigarette alternatives. And the thing is, all we have to do is maybe take it down a notch, like we haven't been completely and totally screwed over for years.
Yeah.
I know it's hard, and it's hard for me every day.
It's so hard. It's so hard. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Allison, did you use my trick when you got up there? Did you picture everybody naked wearing black stocks?
I did not. I was so nervous. That was the first time I'd ever
done it. Nervous.
I don't even remember going up there. I don't remember any of it.
You shut it all out. We were trying to give her pointers, Philip. On
I remember I paused and I looked up at the FDA guy, and he was looking down at the table, and I was like, "Yes, I win." You know,
you won, baby. That's right.
The FDA date. The FDA guy looking down at the table. It's a pretty popular look these days. Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He was looking at his cliff notes. That's what he was doing.
I swear, everything about the hardest thing about going through any day advocating for tobacco harm reduction is not coming off sounding like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, flat earther.
Yep.
We're gonna move you over here now, Filippo. And get back over here.
There it is. He's on the spot now.
Philip, you're in the hot seat. Share a little bit about your story. What we usually do here, we used to have a questionnaire that we used to throw out. I think Tim knows most of the questions. I don't know, was Philip Paul around when we did the question thing, Tim?
I don't recall.
You don't remember the questions?
It was a couple weeks ago, and I don't recall.
Yeah. No, well, remember the first list that we put together to interview people for this segment? You remember we had that questionnaire?
Yeah, we had like 10 or 11 questions.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start you off, Philip, because you look like you're ready. You got your drink. I'm going to have Tim hit you with the most extreme question we have on our list. And I want to start off with the big question, Tim. You know which one I'm talking about. I want to hear.
Well, let's let him tell his story first. Let's hear how he got.
Structure is best. Freestyling, and we'll be here for days.
And that's fine. That's fine. We have time. We have to burn, Philip.
We'll let you tell your story a little bit. But we'll go ahead and start off. I'll start you off with the easy question. Were you a 1-pack a day smoker, a 2-pack a day smoker, 3-pack a day smoker?
When I became aware of vaping, I was smoking 2.5 packs a day, and actually sometimes buying a 4th pack in that given day just to make sure I didn't run out.
You're covered.
I know how that sounds. I can hear
it.
Yeah.
I was basically the person that after I grew up, for the most part, in Birmingham, Alabama. I was born in Canada. I still have dual citizenship in case things should become really stupid here in the U.S. That's not an exaggeration. But moved down here when I was 5 because my old man wasn't a big fan of socialized medicine. Go figure. He regrets that decision, I think. But growing up here, there are lots. And I've read various conflicting pieces of information about, regions of the country and how many smokers there are, but everybody smoked here in high school. Yeah. Everybody. That 13% that you see, CDC or youth monitoring, whatever, tobacco survey, that was more like 23% in Birmingham, Alabama. And, and we're talking at a decent public school, maybe the only one. I'm very grateful, but maybe the only one around. So senior year and pretty much all throughout college, all of my friends, at the very least, would smoke recreationally, like the people that I hate. They could smoke a cigarette when they're having a cocktail. Now, those people make me really mad. So I guess the most interesting thing about me is where people in college went from smoking to drinking to drugs to more drugs and harder drugs. I tended to grow out of partying and getting wasted, and rightfully so, because I was doing it so early on. But with each year after college, it seemed that for reasons of, my employment, family situation, whatever, but I just kept smoking more and more. Whereas pretty much every one of my friends had either taken it down to a cigarette, with, at the bar, or had quit entirely. And I realized at that time that, well, I'm special. And I was in retail and then retail shopping center development, and that is a very, very that's a culture of heavy smokers. And let's just say that by the time I discovered vaping, and it was some of my closest, Wes McDonald, Jake Weitzman, who started what was known as Vulcan Vape. I think like you're familiar with brands like Cyclops, Vapor, things like that. Those guys, got their first orders from Vulcan. So, in any event, like I said before, I was the test subject for their idea that they had found a way to enjoy quitting smoking. And we really didn't know that much about it, but this is, we had the little fillable mouthpieces, the metal cone Addies, and the Ego Tornado Teas. I remember ordering 36 milligram Totally Wicked Red Label from the UK and mixing it with 24 Boba's Bounty. I think it was made by Alien Visions. God, it was great. But the point is, over 14 months, and I think I started on the 6th of April in 2010. 14 months after that, I was able, and if you remember, you couldn't just pick up a new Addy or a new juice anywhere. So 14 months after that, I was not only down from close to 3 packs a day, I was not compelled to smoke at all. And that is something that is what changed my mind about everything and made me very aware of how important it is that I share this information with people everywhere, because I was resigned to die smoking. And that's not an exaggeration. I really just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I say that
Uh-oh.
Someone.
Uh-oh, I think we lost him. Dun, 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 dun. We'll give him a second. Maybe he'll realize it. Hold on. Dunk, dunk. And he could see, I hate people that freeze up in good spots. See, he froze up. Oh, there he's back. Filippo's back. You're back. Are you unfrozen?
Yeah.
There he is. All right.
You did that to me. You did that on purpose.
No, I have the power. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord.
I did hear that hallelujah. It sounded exactly like a church choir, but the synagogue.
Well, I'm kind of
Also,
interested in hearing. Go ahead.
Nothing. I was simply saying that I don't want to come off as sounding morose. I came to the conclusion after everything from nicotine patches to Zyban to Chantix, and even a very brief stint of it was called EDMR. It was a type of desensitizing psychotherapy that was unfortunate and utterly useless. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. And call me a lazy man, but I just enjoyed smoking that much more. And when I tried vaping, I thought to myself, I enjoy this as much as a cigarette, and I don't know what to think about that. And so I immediately started doing all the research I could to figure out why this must be killing me faster than any cigarette on the planet. And what I was coming up with was nothing that could lead me to believe that it wasn't at the very least quite a bit, if not orders of magnitude, safer than cigarettes. So long story short, after I had, for my own to my own satisfaction, figured out that what I was doing was not only quitting, but quitting well, it sort of became my passion to let other people know about this, because people say this all the time, if I could do it, anyone can, but I really do believe that.
Let me see if I put him back in regular mode. Let me try putting you back in regular mode, see if that helps. Sometimes going full screen, it puts a strain on your internet on your end. So let's see if that's better. Are you frozen, Phillip? Yes, he is. See, he freezes in just the perfect fucking position every time. He's like the only person I know. Half of us freeze like, some stupid facial expression or something. There he's back.
He's back.
We were just saying how you always freeze at the perfect moment. You're always not in some goofy situation. You're like this time. You're. Yeah. You never freeze in a goofy look. You're always in the perfect.
Am I coming through here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, we hear you. Right,
this is one of those corporate issued speakers.
Yeah. It's Pave listening in. It's those antis listening in. Curious, what was that one flavor for you that helped you get over the hump to where you weren't touching any more cigarettes? We all have one flavor that.
Well, a horrible thing happened about 4 months after I discovered vaping. Alien Visions, which back then was all there was, at least where I lived, pulled their products and decided that they were going to sell direct and not place their products in retail stores. Let me tell you something. I spent days in the upstairs of my friend's store sampling various just generic e-liquids from God knows where. I must have thrown up 1,000 times.
Oh, wow.
It was bad. But those came back on the market. I would say Boba's Bounty, which was a kind of a vanilla tobacco.
Yep. That was
and then it was Gorilla Juice. Gorilla Juice was the Alien Visions. It was like Boba's, only better.
God, I forgot about Gorilla Juice.
That stuff, I swear to you, it was just, Gorilla Juice, when I could get 24, when they went down to 18, I had a little bit of a relapse there.
But was it the Nick strength, the taste, or that got you to get up sick to your stomach, or was it just, I'm kind of curious. What
you mean when I was sampling?
What was it? Was it just oversampling, or was it just the flavors were that bad?
It was literally samples that Jake and Wes had gotten from, we don't even know. Everything from Red Pirate to Zanzibar. And
bathtub juice. You got bathtub juice is what you got.
That's all there was. This was 2012. It was just it was a real crisis. And this was way before Five Ponds was even something that we'd heard of, or at least we were working on that. But I guess you could say around the time that I was at my wit's end with vaping stuff like bee's knees made in Gus's bathtub in Alabaster.
Yeah.
It was I discovered 24 Grandmaster, and 24 Grandmaster thrown in, God, you name it, whether it be the Eye Clear or the original Nautilus or whatever in between. That stuff was just bliss.
That's my jam, Grandmaster. What was your first device that you owned? What was the first thing that you started vaping on?
The very first vape I ever got was from Totally Wicked, UK. It was the Joytech branded Totally Wicked Tornado T with a cone metal attachment into which you fit a reservoir. You basically inject e-liquid into this tip plastic tip that you fit. I have a picture of myself vaping on airlines with one, because I was just so happy not to be smoking and nobody knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was great. A cocktail to celebrate. So that was the first setup I ever had. And those things were notoriously iffy. You would basically be getting, you would get an atomizer. I'll never forget this. Wes and I took we took a microscope under UV light, the brightest light we could find, and looked inside those cone addies for little etched LR, which meant low resistance. Did anyone ever see this? It was the difference between, we didn't really know at the time that it required more power that those little batteries couldn't put out, but you did get bigger clouds, and we were like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It was like, it was like, but yeah, they have little things etched. I still have a couple somewhere in my cupboard. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, I still got some of my original old stuff. Hey, Paul, you have a question? Don't go easy on him, Paul.
Look. Sometimes I go easy on people. Sometimes I don't.
If I deserve a flogging, give it to me.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay. Yeah, knock it off. Right?
Tim, where does Swifty? I love that. Okay. Paul, by all means. By the way, Mazel Tov, congratulations. I believe you are engaged.
Oh.
No.
Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't.
Just the big question I have for you, that wasn't something I was betting on.
I'll edit that out.
You're a very handsome man.
Here we go again. The big question that I have is between 2012 and say 2014, the difference in manufacturing process went tenfold, didn't it? Liquid manufacturing went from one level to another level.
Yes.
Where do you think the biggest step after 2014 then went?
I would say around the time, and you mean between the time of Halo becoming something that was readily available everywhere, and what's a milestone that I can think of since that time?
Yeah.
Not a goddamn thing.
Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that nicotine salts, and I do believe that nicotine salts could potentially do more good than harm, but let's just say I don't really think that it wasn't rolled out in the ideal fashion.
I can tell you what changed, Paul.
What?
Everyone started vaping 3 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, I thought we were already past that. No. Okay, good point. I thought we were already past the whole mouth to lung direct lung revolution. And that's what broke my heart as a Grandmaster and all the different Gorilla Juice, whatever. If you take that, from a 24 or an 18 in an iClear 16 or a Nautilus and put it in a Kang or subtank or God forbid the original Crown, it's going to taste like shit in 3 or 6. Well, and that's what I learned very quickly. And I really would like to get in touch with Jay so he could send me some free Grandmaster for my
Hashtag. No, I'm kidding.
Jay, I love you. You know I do.
Calling Jay Love. Calling Jay Love.
He knows I do. And I've never asked for anything in my entire life, but I'm asking for this.
Yeah.
But and I just recently stepped down from 6 to 3. It was a process.
Yep. You missed that throat hit you got from the 6.
Oh,
The
man.
flavor.
Well, it's weird. It took about a month and a half for me to realize that the flavor was better.
Yeah.
And now it's weird because I have 6 of this really cheap peach apricot in this thing.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's my usual strawberry custard Jackler right here, and this guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 in my standard is great. Pretty much 6 is a necessary evil in anything else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Morning vape.
But I always tell everybody who ever asks me a thing about vaping, it matters not how much nicotine you're vaping. It matters that you're vaping.
Yeah.
Period. It's just there's just so many people that are obsessed with titrating their nicotine intake as opposed to just being aware of whether or not they're slipping up every so often and buying a pack of smoke. It's bad.
Yeah. I always tell people to pay attention to their puff count when they make that jump from 3 to 6. Just reset your mod, pay attention, and just try to each day just try to wean that down a little bit because we all end up vaping a little bit more when we make that switch from 6 to 3, and just kind of pay attention to it. If you're doing God forbid 350 hits in one day, maybe tomorrow try 300. Or just, we talk about just don't have it in front of you. I mean, that's the big thing. It's like, just don't have it right there in front of you because you're just going to keep grabbing it. You're going to keep vaping it. Allison.
Lockdowns and social distancing.
Yeah, that's the bad one.
Did kind of put a wrench in my plan. Yeah. But I think that you're right, John. Yeah. It's something that the puff counter is something I never even thought would be. I hated puff counters right up until about a year ago. I thought, wait, these things do serve an important purpose.
A lot of people don't want to reset them because they want to see that total before it takes a shit. I'm one of those guys, but
because I could never get high scores in Galaga, so I got to get a high score on this.
Reset that bitch.
How many decibels is your puff counter carried out to? I mean, if we have we talking 6 figures?
I have that one, that paranormal, that Lost Vape, was 175,000 on that thing right now.
I got
before it took a shit. Well, the screen don't work.
Right at 10,000 on this guy.
Yeah. Allison, hit him with a question. Make it hard. I want to see him sweat. I want to see Phillip sweat.
I'm not dropping down my nicotine, so
I'm staying right where I am so I don't kill people.
Right. Okay. So if vaping went away completely, let's say you couldn't access it, you couldn't get it anywhere, what would you do? Like, what would be your next step? Would you what
options? There are no gray market options. Aliens came and took my vape away.
No, I'm saying if all the shops closed,
you couldn't everything just disappeared.
Okay, so this is a governmental. Okay, so this is a. Okay, so in real life, the FDA shuts everything down. What do I do?
Right.
Yeah. Coup d'etat. Vive la revolution. Now, I would likely do everything in my power to prevent that from happening. But if it did happen, I would probably make sure that black market standards are held to very high.
Yeah.
That's.
Listen, I already have my trench coat. We discussed this last week.
Yeah.
I get 2 bottles.
She can have 3 and 6 on one side.
The fact that
you need coils.
Stores, the arbiter of vaping advice is bad enough without them shutting down the stores that really do have the knowledge. People. So that being said, I would have no problem defying that particular. Of course, I can't say that I would never recommend that, but when push comes to shove, I would probably continue finding a way to enjoy it. I've always enjoyed government.
Yeah, in that regard, I worry a little bit more about the people that are kind of new generation vapors, or people who are finally seeing the light and finding a way to get away from smoking, and then I think they'll be the ones that suffer the most, and I worry about them because all of us here probably have plenty of back doors and back channels to access to be able to kind of survive. Because it won't be on shelves. It'll be in boxes and closets and things of that nature. So we'll find a way. But it's the people that actually had a chance, who had limited channels to get to it, and those are the people that I worry about the most. All right, so Phillip, I have a really hard, tough, heavy-hitting question for you. We asked this one to everybody who tells their story. I'm going to have to ask you for a minute to take yourself out of the advocacy space, because in the advocacy space, nothing can be sacrificed when it comes to tobacco harm reduction and vaping. But this is a somewhat generic question, but it has some implications, and we're just looking for an honest answer. So here's your scenario. Phillip, you're standing in front of the big bodies of government, the CDC, the FDA, the congressional committees, and everybody. You're under the spotlight, and they said, Phillip, here's the deal. We want to know what one thing about vaping you would be willing to concede, and it will result in you being able to keep everything else. You can, if it means you want the flavors to stay around, you can have all that. If you want the mods to stay around, you can have all that. If you want, certain nic strengths to stay around. But what one thing about vaping would you be willing to say, if that went away, I'm okay if that part went away, if I could save everything else for the entire vaping community at large? What one thing about vaping would you be willing to concede and just say, yep, get rid of that one, get rid of that part, and we'll keep the rest? This is just an interesting
I tell you
question.
what the first thing that comes to mind is?
Yes, that's how the question should be answered.
Nic salts.
And that's not the first time that we've heard that.
No.
Closely followed by zero nic e-liquids.
So nic salts, why? Because of the strengths themselves and the taboo of it being attached to Juul, which is sort of the...
Because at one time, nic salts were necessary. The very first Sorin devices, they simply did not have proper... They couldn't wick fast enough to take anything with greater than 50-50. It was too thick.
Right.
Nic salts used to be 50-50 exclusively. Now, most nic salts are actually 60-40 or even 70-30. So what we have now are very, very tiny, minute pocketable devices that are mouth to lung, like, whether this, I have the Pro Peel, the UL Pro Peel, which weighs even less than this. To my experience is that an 18 or even a 12 in freebase, compared to a 24 or 36 nic salt, hits like a dump truck.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually do have a bit of an advantage in the flavor department as well. What I think is perhaps nic salts were necessary at one point. The flavor has never been the attraction. The ability to get a lot out of a little. But just to my palate, I find freebase to be infinitely more nuanced in terms of flavor and has a lot more to boot.
Right. I mean, we've heard different answers. We've heard, take vaping out of the C-store channels, if people would be willing to concede that. We've heard people say get rid of 50 milligram or like the high milligram nic salts, but spare the lower milligram, the 36s and the 24s and stuff like that. As long as
C-stores are going to have Virginia Slims, they should have nicotine vaping devices.
Right, and that's usually that's the quandary in this question, is that when you put yourself back into the vaping advocacy space, everything has some value in some way, shape, or form to one person or another. The person that can find a way off of it at, 12 or 18, the next guy is going to need that 50 for a while to help him sort of like curb that craving until he can start to wean himself down if that's his target goal and stuff like that. So it's just a nuanced question. That's just an interesting one. There's no implication. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just I think it's a fun
it was, let's just say that I think that Nick salts do have the place, but I think I have never experienced that instantaneous, strange craving for a Nick salt device that other vapors, I believe, that when they say this, have felt more so than any other vaping device in the past. Now, that being said, the whole perception of Nick salts was just a bad look for vaping. Now, they were and are very effective for first-time vapors, never vapors, what have you, and heavy smokers. But I think that we're at a point now where you have, proper, pocketable devices, everything from, the extras to the latest iteration of UL Caliburn. They are all capable of being used with freebase 70-30, whatever, and they vape extremely well.
But do you think though? Let me switch it up on you, because taking that away, that kind of takes away that impulse purchase from a lot of people that aren't interested in filling the tank, aren't interested in changing a coil, aren't interested in going to a website and buying a 5-pack of coils for their Caliburn.
That's not what I'm suggesting.
The
original logic that I believe is recently one of the few devices or baby devices that does have marketing authorization. That's one of the first store-bought single lights I ever got. And
blues. Blues were for me.
Well, like the blues, only not bad.
Yeah.
The Logic Platinum, I believe, is 2.4, equivalent of 24 freebase.
Yeah.
That thing still will make most 50 milligram Nick salt vapors cough their lungs out.
Yeah.
So my point is the flavor was there, and I do think that was a very palatable tobacco for what helps me quit. So this is just me as a person who's just really just the first thing that comes to mind. We can do without that because we have the ability now to use freebase that is just as satisfying and emulates the feeling of smoking a cigarette even more so in my
I think everybody on this panel has quit using a freebase. I don't think any of us started with salts, so we know it works. And we didn't start at 50 either.
No, but now
when 24 became scarce and the high, was pretty much 18 wherever I went. That was a tough year.
But even the past 3 years, the technology has become so good and so compact that Nick salts aren't always needed, and everyone always gives them a bad rap because they only know about one variant. There are other variants of a Nick salt that you can use, not a problem. Then you've got companies in Europe that actually create hybrid, which is a mixture between freebase and salt, and they are absolutely genius.
What are those called? I've heard a lot about this, but I don't know what it's referred to in Europe.
It's referred to one specific company that started doing hybrids a number of years ago. The company is Chemnovatic out of Poland, and they are the guys that have been doing hybrids, and they'll actually do custom mixes for you of both freebase and salt. But they're not only using like the single salt that everyone's been using for the time being, right? And by the way, Juul didn't come up with that variant of salt either.
No.
That actually came from Pharma, and then they reinterpreted the chemistry of it, and then brought it out into the mainstream.
Who did you say was the first? And believe me, no one is assuming Juul came up with the first name.
No.
Who was the first? Did you say farmer?
Yeah,
Pharmaceutical company.
Pharmaceutical companies, yeah.
Yeah. Pharma has always been on the, how would we put it? Hang on one second.
Well, it would make sense for pharma to do that if you think about it, because it gets them away from that tobacco industry if they're producing their own source of nicotine, not having to be that link and depending on the tobacco farmers and the tobacco companies to supply them with nicotine. I would.
Well, okay.
So you're saying a pharmaceutical company came up with the first iteration of Nick Salt in what delivery device?
Two different delivery devices. One being the inhaler, which being polyacrylics. A second one, when they started testing a variant, it's not benzoic, it's a malic. And they started playing with that idea and they couldn't get it through. GSK or GlaxoSmithKline went back and tried modifying their original inhalers for the Nicorette product back in the 90s, and they could never get it through because it wasn't doing the same thing.
It had blood thinning properties?
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't giving the same satisfaction as their original
stimulation.
Yeah, the original device that they came out with. And recent chatter is we're now hearing that they're working on another form of nicotine, and we're still waiting to see the chemistry on that one.
But this one is just, you just throw it in the air and it'll hit you. And
when you say pharma is a pretty okay, that's a fairly vague term. Can you be more like a pharmaceutical company?
Yeah.
American?
There's two pharmaceutical companies now. They bought a Swiss pod developer 3 years ago that never really got to market, but it was a delivery system for not only nicotine, but for other drugs. And lo and behold, GSK and J&J they were the ones that bought said company. Now they're looking at a new form of nicotine to put in their new product to bring to market. But we're still trying to find out what this new nicotine is.
I think you actually, I think you tweeted something about that. It's kind of coming back to me vaguely, but that's an interesting point.
All right, Philip, I'm going to throw you this question. It's kind of a new one. I run into you. I'm a smoker. I'm a 2-pack a day smoker. What system are you going to set me up with? Go through the whole thing. What e-liquid, what milligram, what device? How would you set me up as a new vapor? 2-pack a day smoker.
Follow 12 milligram Watson OG and this guy.
And this guy, the Caliburn.
No, this is the Propeel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar, only actually a tighter draw, much lighter, and well, no button. The button on the button / auto draw is a problem, at least from where I don't want to confuse people too much. And if you can't defeat the button and just use auto draw, it's an issue for people who are first time vapors, because that is just adding. For experienced vapor, you want to have that option to kind of preheat almost. I do that a lot, but yeah, with someone who's transitioning from a pack of Marlboro Lights a day, that's going to fuck up their whole idea of what to do.
Yeah. I always thought it was funny. Right at the beginning when I started vaping with the blues, I was like, why is there a need to have this blue light go off every time I hit this device? And it kind of hit me after a while. I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. It's kind of emulating the lighting when you're hitting your cigarette. and I didn't figure that was a necessity. But I know people that need to see that, not just the smoke or the vapor, but they need to see that glow. They need to have, and like you're saying, for that smoker, having to push a button doesn't make sense when you're coming off a pack of cigarettes. It's like, why can't I just hit this like a regular cigarette and it work? Why do I have to hit this button? Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
But if I think about it for a second and I give you an answer that really is that makes even more sense, is I would likely, I forget the name of the brand that has a variety of different style devices, but it's a disposable, rechargeable.
All right, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. They are, let's just say, the most. I would put them up there with the most reliably. How about this? Reliably consistent in terms of quality and overall.
Yeah.
I can't remember. What is the name of it's only second to, I mean, they are legitimate.
Are you talking about Puff Bar?
No, absolutely not Puff
Okay.
Bar. As far as I'm concerned, Puff
Better
Bar,
not be Puff Bar.
that's a joke. Now, there was a pop stick or something like that was pretty decent, but it was, God, it's, Amanda Wheeler was, or Danielle Jones was talking about it, this brand. Anyway, my mother, who will never quit smoking after I've literally spent thousands on God knows how many different things trying to get her to quit completely, will take to a disposable that I give her every now and then.
Right.
And the last one that she took to was made by, it started V. Give me I don't know why I'm forgetting this.
Oh, it started with a V?
Yeah, I'm having a moment of aphasia here.
Didn't Vaporesso have a disposable, Phillip?
No,
Paul?
Vaporesso, Vupu. There's Vive, which is another one.
Vive? What's that one? But that was.
I would give this something like, remember the UL Yearn or something like that, something that had pre-filled pods, just because as it turns out the action or the activity of having to refill with a bottle of liquid and remembering to refill, even more importantly, is not as intuitive as we've grown to believe. Especially when we get to older, very heavy smokers, the convenience factor of having a lighter and something to burn.
Right.
Yeah, this, gosh, I hate myself so much, but this is actually very good.
Is that an elf bar?
Behind the scenes, I'm actually having to try a little bit of everything because I do want that answer for somebody. Me and ask me, what should I get? Because
I've had more success. I've had more success handing, especially like you said, an older smoker, guys in their late 40s, early 40s, 50s. They don't want to deal with the refilling. They don't. I can tell you right now, if it leaks, it's gone. It will go in a garbage can. Yeah. So that's what makes it hard.
Times I said 5 fast clicks turns it on. A customer would come in and be like, "My vape's broken," and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's on. Like, it's just not as easy. And when it's not,
it isn't.
You have a graveyard of returns back there. People like, I just don't like it. And of course,
it's the routine. It's that routine of just.
That's what I really like about this one. This has 36 Nick Salt. Watson white gold tobacco flavor in it, and that's something else. Ouch! Is that okay? Was that like Phillip is?
That was
is that like my last whammy? All right, so I think Watson, in terms of something that kind of maybe resembles something that you might get out of a cigarette, it's pretty damn good. And therefore, this thing right here weighs about as much as...
Yeah, but they have to graduate to that product. And I think that's the appeal with the Juul and Puff Bar and some of these other disposables. It was just like, I can just walk into a store, buy it, and you won't see me for 2-3 days. And I know it's not going to leak in my pocket. I know it's, it's going to work. I hate saying it. Is the flavors the best? No, but I think when you're trying to quit, I see Mr. Nick Orlando. I think a lot of times the flavors do help, but I think it's not a big deal when you're trying to transition from cigarettes to smoking. I think you just want it to work more than having to deal with flavors, changing a coil, finding juice, which is insane for some people. And I think being able to walk into that convenience store and go, hey, you know what? I want to try mango today. Or, hey, you know what? I want to try this strawberry banana custard, whatever. I've had more success. And the older, like I have a lot of older, and I think they're the most difficult people to transition from cigarettes to vaping, Syrians. I have a lot of Syrians in my family, and they're heavy smokers. They're 3-4 pack a day smokers. They're jewelers. They are, before the cigarette is even out in the ashtray, they have lit in another one. I've tried disposables. I've tried 120 watt device. I've tried everything with these guys, and they don't want to deal with it. It's like, what do I got to do to make this work? And I even set up temp control just for the fact you guys brought it up, forgetting to fill the tank up, and I figured, okay, I'll set up the temp control. This way the fucker won't fire and they won't get this burn hit. Yeah. They're tough.
That is something that I've not heard anyone say in a while, and you're right, because the devices that you can actually lock into a certain temperature control and they'll stop firing, the ones that actually work, those are invaluable for newbies. And question for you, do you see, for those that are working in stores that do, I do my best to, another good friend owns a chain of stores around here. I do my best to go in there and just sort of, gauge what people are buying and why, and how many, smokers are being, truly transitioned, how many come back. And, there's some amazing success stories, but what I can't quite gauge is how many smokers are looking for a flavor that isn't far, how many smokers are looking for a tobacco variation flavor, and how many are looking for something like pina colada, because that's something that when I was, and this is likely because of what was available, not because of what I might have wanted, when I first transitioned away from 1,000 cigarettes every hour, it was something that tasted most like a cigarette, and which means that I was looking for that which tasted like absolute ash. But and like I said, it's some of the older smokers that I've encountered, like my mother, which is every day it absolutely makes me crazy. She's just not going to stop smoking at least a little bit ever. And this is me working on it for 10 years. Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, they're tough. I mean, that generation, for like the guys that I'm dealing with, they see this as just, they see it as a trend. To them, it's just like, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, hey, I haven't had a cigarette in 10 years. Well, what's the next question that comes out of their mouths? Why haven't you stopped yet? Right. That's like the first thing. So to them, unless it's something that's going to go from cigarettes to nothing, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't care how good it is. They don't care what flavor it is. And I've tried. I've handed them different devices. I've handed them different tanks. I've handed them MTL devices. I've handed them, you name it. And, I even figured these guys are jewelers. A lot of these they're jewelers. So I figured maybe I'll get them something really fancy, fancy gold mod, something, you know what I'm talking about. Something that it's in, because that's the other thing. It's like they are more embarrassed holding something like this in their hand than that cigarette. And that's to me.
Yes. Vaping, it looks stupid. It's going to kill you. Who are you? And
light another cigarette up. That's what I tell them.
Yep.
But yes, this is perhaps daunting to eat.
You've got to graduate to that. You need to graduate to that.
The thing that I can come up with for someone who asks me what they might buy to their introduction to vaping is usually my best bit of advice. I try not to make it any more complicated than it has to be. No, I don't know a single disposable out there that is actually a tobacco.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, Mr. Nick, UL Propeel right here.
You will.
With Watson vanilla tobacco in it. Love it. Delicious. You know,
Nice.
vitamins, minerals. Spoken for.
Anybody else got a question for Phil before we jump into news?
It's sort of rhetorical now because we've kind of heard pretty much all of Philip's story, but what was the one thing? I mean, obviously you were a smoker and you said you had pretty much resigned yourself to just smoking at some point, and you had friends that were getting into the vapor industry, but what was the one thing that kind of drove you to sort of fundamentally want to make that change to just get away from cigarettes? Was it coincidental because of the friends in the vaping industry and you were the test subject, so you were accidental in a way, or was it that you actually had some motivation to try to find something that wasn't previously working for you?
It's a pretty interesting and a very appropriate question. It was a combination. Coincidence, my friends, I was lucky enough to be friends with people that essentially brought vaping to the state. And about 8 months after I started vaping, I was nowhere near to being exclusively a vapor, my youngest brother died. And I believe the morning I got the call that he passed away, I wish I had footage, but I wandered into my friend's little cutout out of their music studio where they had a little tiny selection of vapor products. Wandered in, I said, "My brother's dead. Can I get some juice?" And I was pretty motivated after that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It had very little to do with wanting not to die or wanting to live or anything that had to do with his passing. It had to do with, I don't know, doing something that I knew I could do to live a better life. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's sort of like the underlying thing for all of us, I mean, whether it was for family, for kids, for relatives here or gone, just understanding that I don't think there was one of us that probably didn't sit there and know that what we were doing wasn't good for us, but, bulletproof invincibility, whatever you want to call it, it's just like you finally have some epiphany that just kind of says, you know what, maybe I should try that. Maybe this is the right move, because it ain't going to be cold turkey.
It occurred to me that maybe I appeared pretty lackadaisical about my interest in my own health for a long time, and thought about how that might, the impression that might make on others.
Well, I mean, just an honest response to that, I think, growing up through my teens and my 20s and going through that period of my life when smoking kind of entered my life at 15, let's say I was having a shitty day, we decided to take a walk in the neighborhood. My buddy just happened to be walking through the neighborhood on a different street, ran into him. He had a pack of Marlboro Reds. Now, this is coming from the kid who grown up his whole life, despite mom and dad being like, don't smoke, don't drink, that bullshit. I was like, I'm never going to smoke. I'm just never going to smoke. And I was just so pissed off that day that I'm like, hey, man, let me try one of them things. And that kind of started that process of my life. And there was a huge portion of of my life between that moment and when I first tried vaping, that I kind of was in the same sort of mental space as a lot of people. And it was like, what the fuck do you care? It's my life. I can choose what I want to do. If I want to smoke, I want to smoke. I enjoy it, whatever. Justify the reason to do it.
It was literally my last and most impressive advice. I quit that.
Well, right. Exactly.
After in my mid-20s, and
you're indestructible, man.
I quit staying up all night and seeing that sunrise. Be like, I gotta stop making poor choices.
Yeah,
I just couldn't do it. And
there,
what I didn't do is ever think for 1 second that, well, I'm going to keep my cigarettes. Thank you very much.
right.
And that was just something that I said because
you were worried about the people around you. You were
Stop.
worried about the people around you. That's why you continued to smoke. The fear
I
of
continued to smoke because I was, the word. Thank God the word addiction is starting to lose favor, with people around the world. But there's no question about it. I was absolutely hardcore and no stopping addiction, and that's not even. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, like I said, there was not one particular thing. I didn't wake up one morning and go, you know what, the time has come. I've really got to start thinking about my health. But I did have some situations in my life that were relevant to it. It had to do with me working on weight loss. I lost 2 people around me to heart attacks that were not taking care of themselves, smokers, overweight, eating poorly. So there was that factor. And then it just so happened the guy that sat across the hall from me, Jake, I could see right in his office, and he's like, "Hey, it came today." And I'm like, "What came today?" And he's like, "This new electronic cigarette thing." And he had just bought like the V2 or something like that, he bought Blue 2. And I was like, "Really? What's that shit all about?" So, and I'm like, that piqued my interest. And so if I want to give credit to anyone for finally kind of like making me decide to take the leap forward, because at the time I got into it, girls were doing it. It was kind of like you knew people were doing it, but it was like a dude with something hanging out of his mouth with a blue light on the end of it. It kind of wimped you out a little bit. But I was like, thank God to Jake that he bought it, and I tried it, and then the rest is more or less history. So I mean, I didn't really think about my health, but in a way I kind of did. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is the way out, because otherwise I really don't feel like quitting.
Yeah. See, I can't say for sure if I thought about my health when I had the good fortune to just have best friends that were, on the cusp of starting a business.
Right.
It was 8 months after that it really hit me that there was a greater purpose to doing this. And not only was it possible, it was the opportunity was just, I'd never even thought that I could, put down this, habit that will kill me.
Right.
With such ease, with such a soft option. What the hell are you doing? Yeah. Still buying, a pack of cigarettes every other day, you idiot.
Yeah.
And so I made a concerted effort to, follow through with it, because up until that point, I just kind of felt like, wow, this is amazing. I don't need to buy, spend nearly as much money on cigarettes. Yeah. But I still would occasionally, just because I was lazy and I didn't want to go and do it. Well, that changed things, and
for me it was just stopping. Yeah, for me it was just making sure it stopped at my generation. I didn't want any more of my generation continuing to smoke, because 2 out of my 3 kids ended up smoking, and I never smoked around them, never left cigarettes around, didn't smoke in either of our cars, never smoked in my house. They knew I smoked, but they just they picked it up, and I felt like everyone here knows the story. Is I was, out front with my grandson. He was about 2.5, and talking to my neighbor on the front lawn, and my neighbor hits me in the shoulder to turn around to look at my grandson, and my grandson's got his crayon in his mouth, and he's mimicking me with his crayon, and that was it. I was like, done. I'm not going to let this flow into my grandchildren and then have my grandchildren start to smoke. So I said, it stops here with me, and from that point on, I have never looked back. I've never even, I'm just, maybe I could have cold turkey. I've really never tried, because once I started vaping, I never touched another cigarette again from that point on. Never veered off to drink after drinking and have a cigarette. And I went to a lot of bars, but I never had that urge. I just go outside and vape. But it is time.
Remember when people used to congratulate you for switching your vaping? Remember there was a huge celebration when you finally did it?
Yeah, we talk about that.
Those were great times, weren't they?
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. It used to be one of my questions on this show is what happened, because I'm that we all remember who Phil Donahue is, right? Everybody know who Phil Donahue is? Remember the Blues being on the Phil Donahue show and Phil Donahue praising this product on how amazing it was and how it was working. They had all the spokesmen up there. They were, it was huge. And everybody's like, my mom, everybody's like, hey, you got to go check this shit out. It's on Phil Donahue. It's this blue thing. And I'm like, I didn't care, for it at that time. But it was everywhere. It was on daytime TV. It was on every single magazine cover. It was on the evening news praising this product. And then all of a sudden, the snap of a finger, and I think we all know it cut into revenue. It cut into big tobacco's revenue, pharmaceuticals revenue, and then the eyes opened up, and that changed everything. All of a sudden, it went from this, God sent product, everybody should be vaping this, to, oh my God, it's got carcinogens in it, got carbon dioxide. It's going to make you impotent. That's the new one. We love that one. Yeah, that one. Phil's strong. Phil's still strong as a horse, right, Phil? You're still strong as a horse.
Strong as a horse. Just your kids. You said they still smoke cigarettes, or
my kids all both vape. Yeah, they both vape.
Okay, but they did start smoking.
They did start smoking right in high school, about their junior year, sophomore, junior year. Both of them started smoking without me knowing it, which was hilarious.
My stepson Michael, who recently graduated college, yes, and he vapes, smoked pot and blah blah blah. Yeah. And recently, I discovered that he started. I mean, I always knew he vaped very recreationally, not at all like anyone who was a former smoker, but I wasn't about to. I didn't enable it, but I didn't tell him, you need to stop this right now. It's not good for you. I said, well, you do what, you think is, enjoy it, but I think you probably shouldn't, but I'm not going to stop you. And yes, sure, you can, try mine. The point is, I thought to myself, at this point in my life, at 18, 19, 20, I was already hitting a pack a day at least.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, he had basically cut out vaping altogether by the time he was in his last semester of senior year. So it was indeed a fad, and I didn't push him one way or the other.
Yeah.
His mom's a different story. Actually, his father is a smoker, kind of out of the picture. But let's just say I've never been so grateful to see him doing something he shouldn't do.
Right. Exactly. A lot of people feel that way. And I get, you'll get to the news, but I get why some people start smoking in college or in that earlier part of their lives. But, their stress is there. They're trying to finish reports, and, they got all this stuff going on. I would rather have him vaping than using no-dose to stay awake. I mean, that's how I am. I mean, I know why some kids were using, they're vaping the nicotine to stay awake so they can finish those term papers, or whatnot. I'd rather him doing that than taking some prescription drug to keep them awake. So,
or even drinking a Red Bull. I mean, all the stuff that's in there.
Yeah. Let's be honest. If you're lucky enough to go to some college, you're going to end up doing things that you're going to do you probably shouldn't have done.
As a matter of fact, I think I read a study a few years ago about how college also had transitioned a lot of kids into drinking coffee, kids that never touched coffee in their entire lives. But for some reason, they realized once they got to college how important coffee was just to function and get through the fucking day, dude. And it's like, oh, I never had a cup of coffee in my life. Got to college, Now I'm drinking, I'm at Starbucks. I get a house coffee. In the afternoon, I'm getting, a Frappuccino. I've got, by the end of the day, they've had literally a pot of coffee and they've never touched coffee in their entire lives. But college
So
will
you're
do
saying
it.
it's weird that I started drinking coffee around 6:30?
I started like at 1, but I'm Italian.
I'm Italian.
Yeah, well, European.
Yeah. You put that shit in your cereal. That's my dad. My dad I've never saw my dad actually drinking a cup of coffee, because his thing was he would take the cup, he would fill it up, put his sugar and his milk in there, and then he would pour it in his bowl of cereal, and he would eat his cereal with that cup of coffee in there. That's how he ate his cereal every day until the day he passed away.
John, are you fucking with me?
That's
That's how, and I learned. Well, let's be honest. 1930s, late 40s. My dad told me, he goes, "We didn't have fucking cereal." He goes, "A cereal to us was day old bread that they would break up and put in a bowl and pour milk and coffee into to drink." So from the time he was a kid, that's how he ate his cereal for like 60 some odd years, with a cup of coffee. Raisin Bran, cornflakes, Wheaties, it didn't matter. It was a cup of coffee.
Not floating in that cup of coffee. Cereal, coffee. Cereal.
Yeah, no. He pours the cup of coffee in his bowl of cereal.
I think he's a genius. Why didn't this?
Yeah, I know. You might as well, right? Tomorrow morning, Phillip will be
experimenting. The man absolutely sees further.
Well, we're going to do news real quick here. Let me give me Timmy's bumper. Bam.
All right, I don't have the big papers tonight, so I'm tapping my notepad. So you still get your tappity tap, 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 tap. Yeah, we're going to do some news, but this is going to be a little bit different tonight. John, this is not going to work because I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you're a sharer.
Exactly. So before we get to the sharing of the screen, tonight's news is a little limited. It's one article, but it's going to be kind of a talk it through, and I encourage everybody on the panel, as well as Phillip coming in the show and talking on this. He did bring it up at the beginning of the show, specifically about a publication that kind of came out from the FDA that kind of infuriated a lot of people. Everyone, if you're a vapor, pretty much, or you even know this letter existed, but it's sort of this guy's de facto mission statement / what do you call that thing when serial killers want to put something in the newspaper? Yeah, it's kind of like his manifesto for trying to train wreck everybody, and what the FDA's goal is in terms of keeping vaping in their sights, especially with regard to non-nicotine related, what they like to call tobacco products, when it's non-nicotine tobacco related products. Okay, so the hypocrisy is a little alive right there. So let me share this one, and it's kind of long, so I'm not going to read every passage and sentence in this.
You will.
It's written in the first person. Obviously, this is not some translation or autobiography, but basically, we're just going to read this in his words. If you didn't know this thing existed already today, you're about to find out. I don't know. Can everybody see that now? Is it
beautiful, Tim? Beautiful.
All right, let me.
It's okay to be sad too.
Exactly. So, so Brian King, the director of the FDA Center for Tobacco Products, scribed this letter or put it out today. I don't know how many days he sat at his terminal trying to get his Englishing right, but he kind of goes on to say, when I became the director of the Center for Tobacco Products in July, I joined a team of dedicated professionals that work tirelessly to make tobacco-related disease and death part of America's past, not America's future. Sure, buddy, you put up them dukes against big tobacco and see who wins. In the 13 years since the landmark Tobacco Control Act was signed into law, CTP has done significant work to effectively regulate a complex and rapidly changing tobacco product landscape. With the full support of Commissioner Califf, Woohoo! I look forward to building on the strong foundation set by Mitch Zeller, who served as CTP's director for more than 9 years. So he goes on to laud the new federal law clarifying the FDA's authority to regulate tobacco, which is a bunch of BS that really shouldn't be in the hands of the FDA to begin with. The law, obviously, we know went into effect in April and closed a loophole that several companies were using to try to evade, regulation. Now, manufacturers of tobacco products containing non-tobacco nicotine, there you go. They're in control of tobacco, everybody, but now they're also in control of non-tobacco nicotine. Okay, I'm confused already. Are held to the same public health standards, including pre-market review, that we've worked so hard to implement for other tobacco products. This is a critical addition to our regulatory authorities because nicotine, regardless of its source, is extremely addictive, especially when used by youth. Okay, well, how is it that it's addictive more to one person than another unless you're impressionable? I think, it's equal across the board.
Yeah.
So anyway, this guy just continues to go on sort of like in kind of a godly fashion about, how he's the saint of ending the death and disease related to tobacco products, and in his case, non-tobacco products as well. I'm thankful that our authority is now clear, and I will not stand by as illegal products with potential to cause a new generation of youth to become addicted to nicotine proliferate in the marketplace. With that commitment made clear, I am fully dedicated to implementing and enforcing this new law, building upon the important progress CTP has already made since its passage, which is basically just issue a shitload of MDOs.
Yep.
That's pretty much all they've done up to this point. I haven't heard, I don't know, you guys can comment on, I haven't heard anything about any FDA enforcement at the shop level or at the distributor level. Now, granted, they're probably going after shops. They might have, secret shoppers that go in and look to see what brands are on the shelf and whether or not they're supposed to be there, and maybe they get issued a letter or something. But I haven't heard of any shops being shut down because ATF or FDA is kicking the door in and putting people in cuffs over some stuff. Right. So, I mean, this is just a bunch of hyperbole conversation. Really, all they're doing is still wading through metric tons of paperwork, and then moving the goalpost, and then cutting that short, and basically just giving people an MDO because they want to counter it with some non-scientific research position that what they submitted wasn't good enough. Despite the intricacy and time-consuming nature of these important steps, we are making significant progress in processing and reviewing these applications. So am I to understand that this is like what they got their hands slapped about before when the judge came out and said that they weren't issuing the proper progress reports that they were expecting? Right.
I actually don't know if this is in response to anything in particular. I think this is simply Brian King being Brian King in the most cowardly fashion. To be honest, I think this is something that is running interference, or actually
covering his bases.
Well, no, it's a deflection. It's something that, and it does sound like he is, speaking.
He's on the ball.
Divine purpose, indeed. But
yeah, look, guys,
what it is, it's not a press conference. It's not an official statement. It's not a Q&A. What it is, it's a statement from a man who is best known for screwing up what was, a completely unrelated lung illness in Valley, and not catching it in time, and still really, really bitter and cranky about it. So what I think is most interesting about this, and I think Jim McDonald wrote a spectacular piece, and thank you, Allison, for posting this on Twitter earlier. You were the first person I saw it from. He wrote a very, very appropriate response to this, and he included all of Brian King's bragging about how he has accepted I'll read it right here. In the past 3 weeks alone, the FDA has refused to accept RTA letters for more than 88,000 products and applications that do not meet the criteria for acceptance. And Jim goes on to say the following, which I think is very important to point out. At the CTP, a federal regulatory office with $700 million budget, tripping up tiny businesses with paperwork tricks is a source of pride.
Yep.
Right.
More important
they
for
changed the
FDA.
paperwork you had to file. It was a 4057B form that you had to file with your synthetic PMTA, and if you didn't file that form, you immediately got an RTA.
Of course, everyone should have known about the modifications in the form, right?
But they never made an announcement. They didn't send out an email. They didn't do anything.
But as Jim also points out that this gives them, far fewer PMTAs to issue marketing denial orders for that end up in court.
Right.
Right.
All around, it's just it's an astonishing piece of self-promoting rubbish. That being said,
no, I mean, this is exactly why I wanted some feedback from the panel on this, because, I mean, obviously everybody has a different look on it. I just had that open question about, because I know that they had kind of gotten a serious whipping from this judge who was basically like, look, we told you by a certain time that we wanted a timeline from you when all this was going to be complete, or at least project when you would be done, and they couldn't even provide that. And they still, even throughout this, they're just sort of talking about what they have done, but they haven't really kind of issued any kind of finish line as to when they're going to get done. Obviously, they opened up a can of worms when synthetic nicotine came in, because they had to bring all those PMTAs on board on top of everything they were already doing.
I wonder if Caliph signed off on this thing.
I honestly don't think he has or did, for two reasons. Because he goes into 2 points in here, even dragging in non-nicotine products that weren't there originally, right? The goalpost was changed 3 times in this statement so far, okay? And when we submitted certain paperwork for the synthetic, we threw them back under the bus again. They had nowhere to go, right? We just kept kicking them and kicking them and kicking them. And now there's a list of I think there's 350 products that have gone through to the next stage, or to the final stage that I know of currently.
Well, it's 350 applications. You see how he says denied 88,000 products, but approved 250 applications. An application is not just for one product.
Correct. So what are these 350?
The only one I've ever heard of is Puff Bar. I have not heard a single other person say they got an acceptance for synthetic yet.
Well, good luck with that, because the jury's still out on who first created synthetic nicotine.
What strikes me is, in a general sense, is how cavalier, how self-congratulatory this statement is. In light of their recent scolding, and there is going to be an independent audit of the agency coming up. And this seems like something completely inappropriate given the circumstances.
From a guy that's done nothing. He's done
What
nothing.
I'm saying is this is the exact opposite of a humble response to the current situation at the FDA. And what I'm wondering is, did Brian King put this together rogue? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, is this his way? Like I'm saying, though, is this his way of letting everybody know he hasn't been around and he's trying to fix things and he's trying to cover his ass in some way?
No, because you get into one section of this, okay, and it quite clearly in that paragraph. We've been closely monitoring retailer, manufacturer, importer, and distributor compliance. Fuck, really? Really? So you've got 20,000 agents on the ground running around the fucking country, every port, every airport, every freight terminal. Fucking really? Turn it up.
not one mention of how the FDA should have been more diligent prior to denying marketing authorization to a very public Juul catastrophe and having to rescind their MDO before they were actually forced to by the court.
Right.
That is
Correct.
This is the exact opposite of what an appropriate response to that would be, and I'm not shocked by much, but this is, it's getting close because this guy is just living in a world where he is, well, let's just say, like the Juul situation, which has really brought more positive attention to vaping than anything else, I think, and in a roundabout way. I can't say I'm not hoping this will come back to them in a very, very, how about this? In a, well, what the fuck were you thinking? Non-ambiguous way, because this sounds like someone who is very, very pleased with the work they've been doing in a moment where they have been accused of doing the very least they could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that said, I mean, he kind of goes on to just sort of like talk about like the basic process for MDOs, MGOs. We kind of already know where that stands. Obviously, he threw out some, numbers in reverse to try to kind of conflate the whole posturing position. Let's throw out the big number first to try to make it look sensationalistic, and then I'll put the smaller number in second. Hope that you didn't see that one. Because I don't think the average person understands that on 350 applications that could cover thousands of products.
Yeah,
I mean, so it doesn't really quantify anything.
No.
It just makes it look like they've just got this little bit left to kind of fudge through, and then they'll be all done when
good.
So he goes on to that. Then he talks a little bit more about the enforcement piece and how they've issued all these warning letters to manufacturers and things of that nature. Like, I mean, this is a warning letter. Okay, this is not, we're taking your business and, coup de grace, it's the end of you, fall on the knife kind of stuff. This one, FDA requests that firms that receive warning letters respond to the agency within a specified time period, typically 15 working days. I do know that I think early on we were finding that a lot of people were getting their MDOs maybe fully expecting to get an MDO, and that some people actually didn't respond to some of their MDOs, and so they kind of just folded on their own. But that, there's not much we can do about that. But let's close out with his sort of like last little statements here. He goes, I remain committed to providing regular updates about our pre-market review progress, which I think this has to do with the judge, as well as compliance and enforcement actions related to non-tobacco nicotine products. I'm sorry, you've lost me completely, Mr. King, when you laud the fact that you're in charge of tobacco-related products, but this whole thing is about non-tobacco related. So you're in charge of that too. Where does it say that you can deal with non-tobacco stuff too? Anyhow, our goal is clear. Right. Our goal is clear communication and transparency, and toward that end, we intend to include information about non-tobacco nicotine products in our regular metrics reporting in the future. To keep this sounds like they sat around a round table and they said, let's just come up with some really fucking good buzzwords, everybody. Put it in an article, and everyone's going to buy this, because, all the people that make six figures a year, they like shit like words like metrics reporting. They love that
Imagine
stuff.
even Mitch Zeller reading this and going, what the fuck were you thinking?
Exactly.
No, Karen's been sharing her canned wine again. I know what's been going on.
Yeah.
To keep stakeholders and general public informed, we also launched, here we go, a non-tobacco nicotine product webpage that includes information about how synthetic nicotine is made and our regulation of non-tobacco nicotine products. Juul. We are at an unprecedented time. This is the killer. This is the finisher, folks. We are at an unprecedented time in the history of tobacco product regulation, which comes with both opportunities and challenges. It is critical that we seize upon these opportunities and work to mitigate the challenges through the regulatory authorities afforded to us, which now include non-tobacco nicotine products. Toward that end, CTP will continue to use the best available evidence to make marketing authorization decisions and to enforce regulations that reduce the public health burden of tobacco products at the population level. No problem, bro. Take away the synthetic nicotine. Let's just keep the hospital beds full because that's the only way that you're going to be able to keep that job, buddy. Is making sure that big pharma and big tobacco got their cyclical money flowing through the system. So anyway, it's just for us. It's a bunch of horse shit. We don't want to hate to see megalomaniac governmental heads put out crap like this, but obviously they're not in our court. So
Brian
anyhow,
came looking more like a jester here. That's what I think.
Yeah. So there's that. I mean, it's all good news, everybody. So with that, that's your news for tonight. Yep. Let's go put some masks on mice again. Because that seems to do the trick and convince people. But there's that. So I mean, there's all kinds of news floating around, but obviously we have to deal with this bullshit right now.
Yeah.
But
and here's Tim's twin brother.
Yep, there he is.
But even a few of our friends are now on this list of naughty letters, and I'm like, well, this isn't funny anymore. And I thought, I wonder what their response is going to be, because we were talking about one of their liquids earlier on the show. I could just imagine what the boys are going to do over in their stable. They're going to get really pissed off with that now. And they've named 3 liquids in that letter as well. And I thought,
Excuse me.
I'm actually waiting
Tim,
for what's going to happen.
We need a Dean Snyder. We need a Dean Snyder to go
D.
say,
Snyder.
Yeah, that's
D.
what we
There's
need.
no N. It's just D.
Yeah,
Like
D.
Sandra D.
I did say D. It's my mic. D.
Okay,
D.
D.
Snyder.
D. Snyder. Well, what do we need D for?
We need him to go up there and speak. That's
Why?
what we
Because
need.
he was really good with the PMRC.
Yeah, we need someone like that.
I think D's a bit of a health nut, and I don't think you want D up there fighting for you. I mean, he's good with words.
A type like him.
On a rock, he's doing what on our behalf?
He's a rather educated man underneath
educated.
that blonde, curly-haired exterior.
Yeah, he is.
And pink shoulder pads, and
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So is Tom Morello, but getting him either.
Well, if celebrity is good for one thing, maybe it's the ability to put them in front of a panel and allow them to argue a point, because somehow, if you're of that celebrity status, maybe that garners you a little bit more respect than the average Joe who just spent all these years in the industry. But I mean, he felt like he was fighting for his industry at that time. I mean, I'm not going to get into the PMRC.
Is a vapor. Why can't he get up there? And I mean, he could put some power behind his voice and say some shit.
Well, right, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know, just because of that status, even though maybe us as people at street level don't really care what celebrities have to say about anything, somehow when you put them in front of right, exactly, it puts a focus on.
Did you say?
Yeah, of course.
Leonardo, does he still vape?
Yeah,
he still
Leonardo
vapes.
and Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy too.
Tom Hardy. What's his name? Twilight Batman boy.
We can't use
Oh
Eddie.
yeah,
We can't use Eddie anymore.
He had a jewel belt.
Yes, jewel spotted in the back belt. Right.
Eddie was the big name in the beginning, and I think they should have went and got Eddie Van Halen because he really loved the product. He thought the product was the best. He wished he had that product 15 years ago. He probably wouldn't have died, but
Navarro basically started vaping, quit vaping, on record saying it saved his life.
Tim's got pool. He's a rocker. He could get
I'm a pretty big Jane's Addiction fan, not so much yeah, after Nothing Shocking, things got a little bit shocking, but other than that.
Yeah, get David Chappelle. I mean, he's up there vaping a jewel. Get him on there.
I mean, they just had pictures of Biden's daughter with a jewel.
I know. I mean, come on. I'm sure he's like, please, my son's already given me enough hell. I don't need it for my dog.
A week later, it comes out his hand. He's like, I'm going to get you off that thing somehow.
But you know what? I do think, and I'll stop pontificating after this. I do think it is an enormous win and something extraordinary that Cliff Douglas, for example, has taken a real position on vaping. Whether or not all of what he has to say, we agree with, it is astonishing that he has come out and spoken in favor of nicotine vaping and THR, because here is someone that does have a real background in public policy and tobacco control, coming out and say, wait, this is something that can save lives and I need to speak up. And I respect him immensely for what he has done, especially when he told, I can't remember the name of the host on Valley, he basically shut her down when she mentioned the Valley and nicotine vaping. I thought that was wonderful. It's too bad that Paris versus vaping PAVE needed two co-founders on the panel. But there are a lot of people with extraordinary credentials that are starting to speak up, and I look forward to that trend continuing. And yes, it would be nice to have celebrities, but I'm more interested in people with a history in not much liking cigarettes, or a history in either tobacco control or tobacco science of some kind.
I don't mean so much.
Sometimes they can get the attention of politicians and people that we can't. For some reason, they look at celebrities
they seem to value their opinion because they seem to have some insight into the real world that they don't live, and somehow that connects the politicians to people on the ground, the us's that don't get the opportunity to get up there and speak. And it's the weirdest thing ever to, like, you'll listen to him because he's in a bunch of movies that you like, or or he's a good comedian, or what have you. I mean, but let's be realistic. I mean, D getting up and speaking up there, I don't think that he actually changed the trajectory of the PMRC. We still got ratings on records and all that other stuff. But for whatever reason, they seem to soften their stance on this, you know what I mean? So, I don't know that you infinitely sway opinion, but they might be willing to just pause for a minute and go, whoa, now wait a minute. Now we're impacting the guy we like to watch on the movies, and now he's a real person compared to the numbers that we are just walking around aimlessly in life.
Matthew Lawless was never the right spokesperson.
No, I'm not basically saying having celebrities, but I'm just basically getting to the point is where we deserve a seat. We deserve that same opportunities the musicians got back in the 80s to try to save their industry, save their labels, save their money, whatever you want to say. And I feel that we deserve that same opportunity. I think we need more than that opportunity that we got with Trump to sit at that table. That's fine. That was great. That was a great start. I was hoping that was going to bring it to the next level, and it never got there. But I think we deserve that opportunity to put all our cards on the table. Here's your ain'ts. You go there, sit in front of Senate committee, put all your shit out front, show us all your cards, and let's get it over with. And I think we deserve that opportunity as well.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing that came out of the CASA space with Mark Gunther today, is that he basically, I love Mark's perspective, because he really does have a great deal of wisdom in that. Never discount any possibility in terms of furthering what you advocate for. And he will go as far as to say, hey, why not? Think about the possibility that Matt Myers might still have a change of heart. He said it's 1,000 to 1 chance, 1,000,000 to 1, but it's still within the realm of the possible. And I like that mindset.
Yeah. Do you think, here, quick question, because I kind of want to get your intake on this. Do you think we're at a point now where all the parties of the industry, not the community, but the distributors, the websites, the mod makers, the e-liquid manufacturers, you think they're all on the same page right now? Do you feel like if we were to get something together, they could all agree on it, and not to that point we were at the beginning? Well, that's going to fuck the small guy. That's only going to help the website. That's only going to help the distributor. Do you think right now everyone is realizing we better come together right now before it's too late?
You're asking my opinion on this?
Yeah.
I actually don't. I
You
was
still don't think
very
we're there.
well. I'm speaking of something specific that I saw today that does confuse me, and that is the VTA's support for the menthol ban. I don't quite understand what that is because, well,
The VTA doesn't represent the vaping community, though.
No.
I mean,
no,
not at all.
and that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking is because
Yeah.
I'm speaking to you as a consumer advocate. I don't know where the VTA has been or what the VTA is doing, but they were at that table with Greg, and Tony wasn't, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but I think that advocates, whether they be in the small vapor business or those who support small vapor business, I think Greg and Amanda getting together with the American, vapor manufacturer, I think that's
GMA,
a great move from all angles. And I think that, people like Jim, Paul, Michelle, all of you, you do your part and you do it well. And I've never seen a better coordination of different talents in terms of how we might be poised to make strides towards something that is meaningful, especially considering that the FDA is playing it so loose and cavalier with their own demise at the moment. Yeah, I think if we keep it together and show a little humility and try to sort of understand what is in the best interests of the group, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think VTA kind of just went rogue, and they do have those connections with, like different publications and, and the money behind them where they can get into the public eye a little bit more and just made that statement. But I think real, true people that are fighting for tobacco harm reduction understand that prohibition doesn't work in any way, shape, or form when it comes to menthol cigarettes or it comes to vaping. So we don't agree
those
with
things
that
work
statement.
in the absence of availability.
And it worries me a little bit because it's like, what is the gain there for you to align yourself in that position?
The VTA very clearly say we are, the whole article, the headline was, menthol, ban of menthol. They find unlikely support from vapor advocacy group. This is a group that has taken money from consumers pretty regularly over the years, and it does.
And then disappeared for a while.
Yeah,
quite a while.
Cabo.
Well, it does give me pause. But as for the rest of us, I think we all know what's going on and what we hope to see happen and what needs to be done. I think I'm very, for lack of a better word, I'm encouraged.
Well, like internationally, we're watching the butterfly effect right now.
I'm working on it, Mr. Nick. I see you.
And we're watching what's happening in the United States. Other countries are taking note. The Philippines has done the right thing for a change and put something well worth, like even their problems with the FDA and the money that they found flowing in there, they overturned that. That's a great thing. Okay. Australia with the prescription model, we're trying to change that right now. We don't know if we're going to get an opportunity to do it, but there's a handful of us here that are willing to push forward with a whole new option and a whole new game set and see if the TGA will actually speak to us. Then on top of that, we've got New Zealand doing what they can do, and they're getting tougher restrictions thrown at them. That's hard. That's hard to deal with. Next ones that we've really got to crack are Malaysia, Thailand, China, and Indonesia. If you get the Pacific regions all together to actually start playing on a world scale and then hammering the US and going, well, you're doing the wrong thing. I'm sorry, but we can shut down, visas. You can't come here for a holiday anymore because you've been naughty boys. And we will change the laws to do so. There are ways and means that countries around the world can play their part. And there are a lot of people on the world stage now, and even scientists that I didn't ever think would come back to the table. And they're back at the table with us. I'm a chemist, for fuck's sake. I like speaking to these people and going, well, this is this is that. If I send you a document, will you at least read it? And they do. And, you know, we've got to chip away at it. It's still a big marble block. We've only scratched half of the face of it so far, right? We're chipping away at it. We're getting a face there. Okay, put the analogy of vaping to Mount Rushmore. How long did Mount Rushmore take to create?
2 days.
Oh, bullshit.
I'm fucking kidding. I got
speed chiseling. Speed chiseling.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying, right? Vaping is Mount Rushmore. And we're chipping away at it. We've got half a face there now. Okay? Let's start drawing in the eyes the real people that have been losing their lives, are in hospital on a ventilator, that could have been saved if this technology was around 15, 20 years ago, for argument's sake. Let's stop the corporations getting in the ear of the TGA and controlling the TGA with their revolving door policy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a fool on that one. But please, we need a seat at the table, first and foremost. Until this industry gets a real seat at the table on an international level, shit is going to go pear-shaped. Simple.
I'm with you, man.
Unico and gosh, help me. What is the Coalition of Asia Pacific?
CAFRA.
Kappa.
Spectacular job Nancy's been doing.
There's CAFRA. There's also the agency that H runs, which is over there in Malaysia. No, the seats are all taken. Yeah.
And all of them have been doing an incredible job recently. I think that it's important that we be aware of everything that's going on that those groups are reporting on, and I think everyone here does that. And like you said, you know, the more global this community becomes, the more the more difficult it gets to ignore us. Yes.
Well, you've got the FDA in the Philippines. They got their pants pulled down because they were found to take money from Bloomberg, right? That's for a start. Then they had a change of heart. The law was written in such a way that it could be interpreted quite clearly, and it was quite fair, which I thought, and what I've seen put forward, and what's going into law over there, I think could also be another benchmark for other countries to look at. The US FDA, they've gone down the wrong pathway. I'm sorry. They've really gone down the wrong pathway on this one.
And it hasn't gone unnoticed either, which is refreshing.
You know, even from professional people that I know, even in legal circles, they're saying the same things. That this is going to come back and bite them in the ass. Because studies from around the world are emerging now from top epidemiologists and also within the tobacco industry. Once upon a time, they lied about it, but now they've got an open book on the chemistry and the science of what they've been doing. And it's been quite noted. But the scientific community is also being muzzled. Until the scientific community can be unmuzzled and we can go back to what should be happening, we're not going to get change. I'm sorry.
All right, guys, we are done. I want to thank Filippo for joining us. Gracias, señor. Gracias, Filippo.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lady. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Absolute pleasure meeting you, man.
Yeah, you're welcome back
you so
anytime you want to
We
jump
appreciate
in.
it.
Just
We appreciate it.
let Allison know, and We're friends now on Facebook. Just let me know. Just let me know.
Hey, Al, you were right. We had fun.
I told you we would.
Yeah,
And
no.
I'm on Twitter doing what I do, but this is what I am passionate about. And if there's anything at all I can do, please always feel free to reach out.
Yeah. We need more people doing that. Even like we always talk about, start out 5 minutes a day. If that's all you can give, do 5 minutes a day, and then each week up at 10 minutes, then 15. Simple.
Trying to get it down to an hour, man.
Yeah, eventually you're doing it for a living. Eventually you're working for CASA and you're doing it for a living. Thank you, Tim, Paul, and Allison for joining us today. Well, you're always here. What am I thanking you guys for?
We're old news now.
You're old news. Again, we'll see everybody next week. We should have some more people doing stories. We'll do that every other week. We like having someone come in and share their vape journey with us. And we should be maybe the week after next. Anything else you guys want to throw out there real quick? Goodbyes.
Vape on and vape strong.
I love Timmy. Straightforward, right to the point, baby. All right. We'll see everybody next week, and we are out of here.
See you.